Japan's carriers were minutes from striking again, and still did not know, clearly enough, where the American carriers were. At Midway, that gap was fatal. Most people remember the ending. American dive bombers overhead, 3 Japanese carriers burning in minutes. It looked sudden, almost inevitable. But it was not inevitable at all. Midway was a battle of search patterns, delayed reports, and choices made with incomplete information. One reconnaissance gap did not decide everything by itself. But it helped open the door to disaster at the exact wrong moment. In carrier warfare, the ships deciding the battle usually could not see each other. Everything depended on scouts. Find the enemy first, and you could strike first. Miss him, or learn too late, and your own flight deck became the target. Nagumo had 2 jobs at once: hit Midway and stay ready for American carriers that might appear from the east. Japanese forces launched search aircraft, but no search was perfect. The Pacific was too large, aircraft were limited, and coverage was uneven. Historians still debate how decisive any single scouting gap was, and that caution matters. Midway was not lost because of one plane alone. But Japanese awareness that morning was incomplete, and one scout has drawn attention ever since. A cruiser-launched float plane assigned to search an important sector departed late. That delay did not automatically doom the fleet. But in a carrier battle, minutes matter. On the American side, this was not just luck. U.S. codebreakers had given Admiral Chester Nimitz strong reason to expect Midway as the target, letting American carriers wait in the right general area. That narrowed the search, but it did not remove uncertainty. The Americans still had to find the Japanese, launch effectively, and survive if discovered first. By the morning of June 4th, NAGUMO'S first strike had already hit Midway. Reports coming back suggested the island needed another attack. That forced a hard choice. Keep reserve aircraft armed for ships in case American carriers appeared, or prepare them for a second strike on the atoll. Nagumo moved toward rearming for another Midway attack. Then the picture broke apart. Scout reports came in unevenly, not all at once and not always clearly. One message indicated American ships had been sighted. Later clarification suggested carriers were among them. That was the warning Japan needed. But it arrived late, and it arrived while Nagumo's carriers were in the worst possible stage of transition. This is the close call at the center of Midway. Japan finally gets warning, but the warning comes during the exact window when acting on it is hardest. And this part is often oversimplified. The problem was not just some frozen image of decks crowded with planes. Aircraft from the Midway strike were returning and had to be recovered. Others were being prepared for the next mission. Weapons handling and flight deck cycles created a bottleneck. Nagumo could not instantly turn that into a clean anti-ship launch. Then came another twist. American attacks arrived in fragments. U.S. torpedo squadrons went in first. They were devastated and scored almost no hits. On the surface, that looked like a Japanese advantage. The carriers were still afloat. For a moment, the battle could still swing back. Then the sky changed. Late that morning, American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown found the Japanese carriers. Their arrival was not magic. It was the convergence of intelligence, risky search decisions, broken timing, and the sacrifice of earlier attacks. At the worst possible moment for Japan, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu were struck and fatally damaged within minutes. That was the shock. A battle Japan had entered with confidence became catastrophe in a span so short it barely seemed real. And even then, it was not completely over. Hiryu, the 4th carrier, remained in action long enough to launch counterattacks that helped cripple Yorktown. That matters because it shows how close Midway still was, even after the first disaster. But by the end of the day, Hiryu too had been mortally hit. Japan had lost 4 fleet carriers. So did one missed search pattern change everything? Yes, in the sense that it helped shape the timing. No, if we mean it alone decided the battle, that would be too simple. American code breaking mattered. American persistence mattered. Japanese doctrine, communication, and timing mattered. Chance mattered too. But the reconnaissance gap, along with delayed and evolving sighting reports, helped create the exact conditions in which every later problem became harder to solve. If that key contact report had come sooner and more clearly, Nagumo might have had more time to keep aircraft armed for ships, launch earlier, or at least avoid being caught in such a vulnerable transition. That would not guarantee a Japanese victory. Historians are right to be careful there. But it could have changed the tempo of the battle, the losses on both sides, and perhaps the course of the Pacific War that followed. That is what makes Midway so gripping. Not destiny, not a miracle in isolation. A chain of timing problems, human decisions, and one morning when seeing first meant everything, and Japan saw too late.